It's time for the Nebraska Baseball Coaches Show.
2-1. Bounce towards short. Carey charges hard. Tough hop. Gets the short hop. Throws the first in time. And Broderick gets Nebraska out of trouble in the top of the 8th. What a slick job by Nebraska's shortstop.
Thompson grounded out to Brumbaugh's first time up here. He's first pitch swinging. Skies this to left. In foul ground, Butenbach giving chase. Sliding, making a great catch in foul territory. On the warning track, head first slide by Max Butenbach for the second out of the inning.
Brought to you by your Midwest Ford dealers.
And the pitch swung on. That ball is hammered towards right field. Way back and way out of here. A 2-run home run for Tyler Stone, and the Huskers have grabbed a 3-0 lead.
Now with Will Bolt, here's your host, Dick Handley.
And good Monday evening. It is the Nebraska Baseball Coaches Show, the Will Bolt Show, here on Sports Nightly. Nick Handley with you here in studio. Brought to you by the Nebraska 811. Contact 811 2 days before you dig to protect your underground utilities and yourself. It's free, it's easy, it's the law, as we're going to be talking this entire hour with head coach Will Bolt in studio with us. The first week, we should say, too, of not a heavy midweek. We'll get to that here in a moment. And, Coach, first of all, before we get into yesterday's game against Rutgers, the net positive over the weekend, just really trying to knock down that first Big Ten series. And you get that heavy lifting done before you enter the ballpark yesterday. Overall, that had to feel like, okay, now you can get some momentum going.
And bouncing back well from a couple of tough losses in the midweek and having a really strong performance on Friday. Just a tough, gritty performance on Friday, really, to get back in the win column. And then kind of winning that Saturday game going away. Felt great about where we were at going into Sunday. And They did have probably their best arm, that statistically wise, that was pitching on Sunday, and had typically been a bullpen guy, but they would open him and use him some. And he did a good job against our lineup. It was really, really hot. I would have really loved to have finished the week off the right way on Sunday. Unfortunately, just didn't play well enough together on Sunday to win.
And we'll get into a little bit more of the pitching side of it too, but something that we've had a chance to talk about now the last 2 weeks, really since the time got back from California. I don't know exactly what the number was, but I feel like it was around maybe 230 as a team batting average. Now we're looking at that number at 270 on the climb. And I've been asking you the question of what have you seen in that period of time. Now I think the question is, how do you maintain that? Yeah. Especially with the arms that you guys have seen to this point, I'm assuming have really led to that number getting up there, because there's nothing that a team can throw at you guys anymore that you haven't seen.
Yeah, we've seen the best. I mean, we've seen, I think we've faced 6 teams that have been ranked inside the top 25 this year. So each and every one of those teams has really good pitching, good stuff, good fastballs, guys that can locate. So it's just a matter of kind of getting calibrated as the season gets along, and also just kind of consistently finding who the top, 10, 11, 12 guys are that we can really count on in the lineup, which was a bit of a struggle, as we know, early. But, yeah, just the guys are playing with more confidence in the box. And, the key now is just understanding what has gotten us there. It's you get your confidence from your approach and trusting your approach in the box and planting your flag on something and standing for something. You don't get your confidence from results. That's not the way the game should work. So the key is that we just stick to that and not get outside of that, not trying to do too much, not giving the pitcher too much credit, not trying to guess in the box, really being sold out to what we're trying to get accomplished. And, we can roll out 6 left-handed hitters in a lineup when we face a right-handed pitcher. That can make it tough on some of these guys that we're facing now, that we have some of these guys going that are left-handed. And then also we were pretty poor early in the season against left-handed pitching, and that's changed in a big way too. Again, that's just from a more unified approach at the plate, where guys are covering up the plate better and using the whole field a whole lot better than we were at one point in time. And the key is just not to base what you're doing on results, and just understanding the process that it took to get there, and it's a mindset, and just being very steadfast in that.
Yeah, and it probably helps too. A lot of those veterans that you have in that lineup that maybe got off to a slower start, and we've talked about Tyler Stone battling that shoulder injury, but at moments Dylan Carey had a little bit of a lull there too. But just seeing some solid barrel contact with a lot of those experienced hitters setting the tone there too seems to be a lot more evident and seems to be a lot more consistent with some of those guys you probably expect that type of result from.
Yeah, and I think some of the guys early were putting pressure on themselves to really produce because there wasn't a whole lot going on around them. And now, again, they're feeling like there's 1 through 9 in the order that are unified in what we're doing and passing the line and, you know, all the things that our best offenses have done and really, honestly, just good college offenses do. Because we typically haven't been a 100 home run team. So you got to make sure that you're playing a team brand of baseball. And so, yeah, just the guys are feeling confident based on making it easier on the guys around them because we're just having team at-bats.
And you brought up just a moment ago about one of the challenges, and this is something typically teams are looking forward to in those first couple of series of the season, of finding that right combination, and it's taken a little longer to find that group that seems to have that type of consistency. But now, as you've seemingly found that, and we even saw it in the loss against Creighton, and even at times throughout this last couple of weeks, whether it was a win or a loss, you'd go to the bench and you'd be able to punch the right button. Someone would come right in, whether it was Gabe Swanson or Cale Frost, RBI single or a home run. We've talked about Max Butenbach comes in, sends one out of the park. Is that, as you get into that second half of the season too, looking at that as now trying to find that combination, but now looking at guys on the bench that are going to embrace those roles when called upon? Yeah,
of course, and that's important. They understand that we do use a lot of guys, and sometimes we feel like there's a matchup that we can get to that is more advantageous for us on the bench versus who is in the game, that we're not going to be afraid to go to that. So they understand that now, and I think, again, just because more guys are on the barrel, the guys that are coming in are feeling more confident about what they're capable of doing, and they're also more sold out to what they're doing just in terms of their approach. So, yeah, it's very important that you have guys that are ready to go when their name's called upon.
Talking to head coach Will Bolt. We're going to continue our conversation. Wanted to remind you, though, our Nebraska Lottery baseball trivia question. We do have that for you. And, of course, Nebraska Lottery bringing you that every week here on the Will Bolt Coaches Show. The first person to text the correct answer to 402-413-2400 will receive $100 in Nebraska Lottery scratch tickets. The question is, what year did Nebraska set the record for most home runs as a team in a single season? Again, what year did Nebraska set the record for most home runs as a team in a single season? If you have that answer, make sure you text 402-413-2400. So, Coach, continuing our conversation, going to yesterday, and this seems the frustrating moment of when you finally get the offense clicking, it's trying to have that same type of effort on the mound where that's effective as well, and trying to get that connection there too. I know you were not happy with the bullpen yesterday, and if anybody who's watching that game could understand why. Where do you feel, was it more of leaving pitches too flat? Is it count leverage? What have you seen in that trend lately?
Yeah, we've been chasing the count too often, not getting ahead, not throwing strike one and putting the hitter on their heels. I mean, we're constantly chasing the count and giving up too much in the middle of the plate because of that. And so, yeah, just need to be on attack and trust your stuff and pitch with a mindset that you're going to challenge the hitters. And so, yeah, again, those you have longer innings on offense, then, you really have to be that much more locked in as a pitcher to go back out there and be on attack to start. You have an awful lot of time in between innings. Your brain can go in other places that may not always be great. And when the offense is not going well for your team, it's quick back out there and you don't really have much time to think. So that's fairly natural. But for us to get where we want to get to, we've got to have both going at the same time. Obviously, hitting, pitching, and or timely hitting, pitching, and defense is what wins baseball games. If you don't have at least two of the three, you rarely win. And so, yeah, we gotta have just more guys on attack, and because we aren't really punching a lot of guys out. I mean, that's kind of the other part. So it's really imperative that you get ahead, and that way you can kind of expand a little bit. And not necessarily pitch for the punch out, but you can get an early weak contact because guys are behind in the count.
And we were seeing early in the season where the offense was still finding its way, that we're getting those efforts out of the bullpen, really being able to piggyback off the starting pitching too. And this is an interesting time now because you don't have the heavy workload of the two midweek games as well. Is that an area that you feel optimistic that maybe a little less of the workload on that entire staff might lead to the results that are more ideal.
I think so, and we'll get Timmerman back this week, thankfully, at the end of the week for the weekend, so that will help. Now, with the number of innings that we had to log out of the pen last week and just in general, it's going to make tomorrow a challenge just in terms of who we're going to give the ball to start, first of all, and then also just trying to get some guys in there that are still going to be capable from a pitch count standpoint and an appearance standpoint. I mean, Drew had 3 appearances last week, and that's a lot. It's a pretty heavy workload, and Jalen a couple. He's starting to throw well, and so I think getting Tucker back will help solidify some things, some roles, and honestly just continuing to get deeper into games with our starting pitching. And like I said, tomorrow may end up being more like a staff day, so we probably won't have a starter that's going to go 5 innings tomorrow.
Well, you mentioned Jalen Worthley, and I know I've been asked a few times too, is everything okay with him in these last 2 times out?
Yeah.
It seems a lot more familiar with what we've seen. What have you seen him, or where have you seen him turn the corner this year?
Yeah, just better mindset last few times out, a little more confidence, stuff ticked up a little bit, throwing more strikes, and had a couple of quality outings last week. Gave us a shot kind of to stabilize that Creighton game, and then came in on that Saturday game and, kept things from getting too sideways. So veteran, experienced arm, going to need to continue to lean on him multiple times a week to get us through some tough innings.
We're going to step aside, take our first break here on the Will Bolt Nebraska Baseball Coaches Show. More with the coach after this here on Sports Nightly.
Triple B Feed has the products to help your cows thrive. Whether it's weekly delivery of consumption-controlled Lumix liquid mineral with protein or Sweet Pro block supplements for space feeding, while also stretching your forages up to 25% better, Triple B has you covered. Let Brian and Brad Blauhorn take some of the stress out of your beef production this year. For more information and other products, visit triplebfeed.com. Triple B Feed, helping you and your cattle.
Which automaker employs the most hourly workers in the country? Ford. Which automaker assembles the most vehicles in the country? Ford. That's not a coincidence. It's a commitment. A commitment Ford dealers share by offering employee pricing across a full lineup of Ford vehicles.
Now get employee pricing available across a full lineup of Ford trucks and SUVs. Employee pricing. You pay what we pay. Only from your local Ford dealer.
Hi, I'm Tom Osborne, former football coach and co-founder of the Teammates Mentoring Program.
And I'm Des Moines Adams, Husker black shirt and CEO of Teammates Mentoring.
We are recruiting teammates mentors and need caring adults to be in the lives of our students.
Meeting with a student once a week at the school can make a positive impact in their life and have a ripple effect in our communities.
Please join our team.
Go to teammates.org today.
Husker fans, it's game day, and Pizza Hut's got your perfect play. Score the game day special for just $29.99. Get 2 medium 3-topping pizzas, 8 boneless wings, and 5 breadsticks. Enough to feed 8 hungry fans. Pizza, wings, breadsticks, and more. It's the ultimate lineup to fuel your game day. Check out the full menu online at pizzahut.com or in store. Because remember, no one out-pizzas the Hut.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the 9th inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
Because my mom wore her seatbelt that day, I get to hug her when I go home.
And then it clicked. Because I wore my seatbelt, I learned that one moment in time can change a person's life forever.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
The day we were hit was the second to last day of our high school careers.
We were about to graduate as best friends together.
And then it clicked. Because we wore our seatbelt that day, we still get to experience life together.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Hey Huskers, it's a new day in Nebraska. Manzer Equipment, Mertz Farm Equipment, and West Point Implement of Columbus have teamed up as True Ag and Turf. Coach Rule is bringing innovation and high-performance standards to Husker football, and True Ag is doing the same to your farm with game-changing Fendt equipment. As Big Red establishes power on the field, True Ag and Turf does the same in the field by welcoming Fendt to Nebraska.
Nebraska Lottery.
Hey, I heard Trucks and Bucks is back.
Yes, sir. And this year you could win one of 8 new gray trucks. People from around the state just love this game.
They do?
You bet. Just this morning, I got calls from excited players in Burwell, Sutton, Fall City, and Ralston.
Well, you can add Wilbur to the list.
You're from Wilbur?
No, that's my name.
Oh.
Hey, if you get a call from Alma, that's my aunt.
That's her name?
No, that's where she lives.
Trucks and Bucks top prize odds are 1 in 336,000.
I got to see my brother get married.
I would have missed my dad's birthday.
Because I wore my seatbelt, I had the privilege of being part of his special day.
I got to go home and see my family again.
Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
I was able to go to my brother's graduation.
I wouldn't have adopted my first pet.
And then it clicked. My seatbelt saved my life. Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
Want to boost Nebraska's economy and help the planet? It's as easy as filling up your tank. Switch to soy-based biodiesel to cut greenhouse gases by up to 74% and support biodiesel growth.
I'm Greg Anderson, a farmer near Newman Grove, Nebraska, and biodiesel has transformed our farm. It cuts emissions, raises the cetane number, and improves fuel lubricity.
So ask for biodiesel where you fill up. It benefits our air, economy, and Nebraska soybean farmers. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Nick Hanley back here, Sports Nightly, hour number 1. It's the Will Built Nebraska Baseball Coaches Show, brought to you by Dorothy Lynch. Dorothy Lynch Home Style and Light and Lean Dressing. Endless flavorabilities. So a little lighter workload this week for the Nebraska baseball team. It's Kansas tomorrow night, a Kansas team that is hitting the ball extremely well, and this is the theme of the week, it seems like, Coach. You got a team in KU that is hitting over 300, Iowa hitting the ball very well. And we just talked about pitching, and this is obviously a sense of urgency for that group to get right against the competition this week. But we talked about Nebraska hitting the ball a lot better lately as well. But pitching, that's obviously going to be huge this week.
It is, and KU's already hit 70 home runs this season. And they've crept inside the top 25. I think they've got a 26-6 record, so they're doing a lot of really good things there. And, they're just – They slug the baseball is what they do, doubles and home runs, and they put up big numbers. So, again, you can't back away and shy away from that. I mean, you're not going to typically get beat by a lot of solo home runs, but if you shy away from contact and get behind in the count against those types of teams, you're going to walk and give up hits, and those turn into three-run homers. So those are hard to come back from. So, like I said, we're going to need to show a bunch of different looks at them. They got a primarily right-handed dominant lineup. Pretty good ballpark to hit in, so we need to keep them off balance. Like I said, attack, get ahead, and then that's really the name of the game against anybody that you face. You can't really shy away from early contact because you get yourself in some tough spots when you do.
And defensively, too, not only does pitching have to be solid, against any team, but especially this week with teams that can slug a little bit, but also having the guys behind him making the plays. And that's been a mixed bag a little bit this year, but overall, collectively from the last week, where are you at and where do you feel that the team is just fundamental handling the baseball and doing those little things?
Yeah, I think we've been a pretty solid defensive team. I mean, you're going to have a few mistakes here and there, and obviously the big inning on Saturday was a direct result of poor defense. Again, you've got to be able to overcome some of that stuff too, though, on the mound, where you pick your guys up if you have some mistakes defensively, and that's probably been more of a mixed bag for me than just the defense, because there are going to be some mistakes over the course of the game, wild pitches and errors and some of those things. But as far as throwing to the right bases and playing pretty good catch this year, done a nice job. Had some different moving parts at second base. Dylan's been very, very steady at shortstop, and we've started to solidify some things behind the plate. So Silva continues to run balls down in center field, and especially seeing him out there on a daily basis now, you kind of remember how good he is out there at doing some of those things. Saw Butenbeck make a great play, diving 2 or 3 of those, threw a guy out at the plate. Defensively, we're solid. I mean, we've been a pretty typically really good defensive team for most of this season.
Well, this goes back to a little bit of that depth offensively, when you're able to look down that bench, look down in that dugout, and say, okay, we need a stick here. A guy like Gabe Swanson, you bring him in, but he can also play and field his position pretty well, whether it's in left field or right field. And so, and Max the same way. Max, I think a lot of people think, okay, that's a guy that you want in the batter's box, which is true, but he's also a guy that you feel confident you can put out there, and he's going to make plays defensively.
Yeah, and typically you want to try to get your best bats in the lineup if at all possible. Right. And I've always been one that you better have a bat that's going to be above and beyond if you're going to take away from something defensively. So again, what you're starting to see with our group is that we're getting some bang for our buck, with the bats and the lineup, and getting some slug and some home runs and doubles and some of those things that, again, when you face tough pitching, it's not easy to string together multiple hits, so you got to be able to slug. Just having some versatile pieces, some guys that you feel like you can put on both corners in the outfield. Brumball's played second base, center field, left field for us. Stokes has played a couple different positions. You just want to have some versatility, and like I said, you want to try to get your best bats in the lineup. Sometimes you may give up a little defense as long as they're driving in more than they let in, is what you say, right?
Yeah, and going back to the rotation and the weekend rotation, we were talking about the last 2 times we've sat down on this show, talked about Will Walsh and being able to set the tone and being thrown into that Friday night role because of Mason's injury. But, he got hit around a little bit on Friday. But then again, he seems to have that mindset where if he can just get through it, that he can at least try to stretch that out as much. How much of that, because I don't know if it's been made as big of a deal during the offseason that he made that transition from being a utility guy where he can give you innings on the mound, but also he can give you some defensive help and give you some at-bats, to just being strictly a pitcher. How much of just the mental part of that do you think and that transition has allowed him to be able to weather some of those rocky innings?
I think so, and I think just his experience being a starter at this level. I mean, he's started an awful lot of games now at this point, so he knows how to navigate, and when he doesn't have his best stuff, he knows what pitches he does have and which ones he continue to go to, and he fields his position, he holds runners well. Typically, the big innings haven't happened with him on the mound because he does those things well, and he's not going to give you a lot of free bases. So probably more than anything, what just being a PO has allowed him to do is kind of his routine in between his starts can be a little more refined, just because he's not taking batting practice or having to take ground balls and throw in the infield. He's able to spend a little bit more time working on some of the things with the plyo balls and some of his stretches, mobility, and some of those things that kind of allow him to stay strong throughout the year.
And looking at another guy, I know we've talked a lot about the upside of a guy like Carson Yassa, but even Ty Horn going into this season was another guy you wanted to see make that jump. And I know his overall numbers maybe don't always tell the entire story, but as far as just his overall development and still having that type of stuff that is typically going to factor into a weekend staff, where do you feel that's coming along right now? Yeah,
I mean, I think if you look at most of Tyner's outings, he's been hurt by the crooked number, and that comes from whether it's a little bit deeper into his outing where he gets a little tired and walks a guy and then finds the middle of the plate, he's given up some extra base hits. But usually it's his first 3 innings are typically pretty strong, and then kind of hits a little bit of a wall in that 4th or 5th inning. And I remember going through that with Cade Povich his sophomore year. Just his numbers weren't nearly as good as what he threw at times, just because when he got a little bit tired in the middle innings, he gave up some home runs and some of that stuff. And then it really changed for him as his junior year when he was a little bit stronger. He could easily go into 6th or 7th inning. So that's kind of with Ty, and just in general, I mean, our bullpen's been stressed because our starters are not going. Yeah. Think about last year's staff. I mean, Brett Sears was 7 every time, and then McConaughey would follow that up with 6 or 7 innings, and there's not as many innings to cover the rest of the weekend. So everybody's roles get a little more defined when it comes to that stuff. So had a little bit more difficulty getting guys through the 4th or 5th inning this year, and so we're having to go to the bullpen earlier, and some of those crooked numbers have been coming in those middle innings where you're trying to stretch the lead or you're trying to come from behind a little bit for 1 or 2 runs. Ty's got to get over that hump to be a successful starter at this level.
Got a big weekend against the Iowa Hawkeye offense as well. We'll get into some of the matchups here coming up as well when we continue talking to head coach Will Bolt here on the Nebraska Baseball Coaches Show, brought to you by Hy-Vee. Hey, Huskers, stop by your local Hy-Vee where they've lowered prices on thousands of the items you use every day. Hy-Vee dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier. We've got more coming up here on Sports Nightly on the Huskers Radio Network.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the 9th inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
Life doesn't come with guarantees, but working with Rob Seco comes pretty close. Our strategic investments in the seed we offer are designed to directly improve your bottom line. From full trait platforms, breeding and development, to field-by-field planning and seed-driven crop inputs, with Rob Seco, you have precisely what you need to improve plant performance and increase yield. Every farm, every crop, and every acre. Learn more at robseco.com.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
Lowe's knows that to win the job, pros need the best prices. That's why only at Lowe's, MVP's Pro Rewards members can get a volume discount on eligible orders as low as $1,500 at the Pro Desk. That means you get the prices you need to start any job, small or large. Because Lowe's knows pros. Valid in-store only. More terms and restrictions apply. Visit Lowe's.com/terms or Pro Desk for details.
Set. Hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other. Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Dear Truckin' Awesome,
Want more horsepower in the stable? The Tundra iForce Max is the most powerful Tundra ever. With its electrifying twin-turbo V6, you got everything you need. Saddle up the Tacoma TRD Pro. Its segment-first performance seats are designed to smooth out the shocks when the ride gets bumpy. The Toyota 4Runner is part mean streak, part wild side, and an all-around icon. Check out that signature power rear window, will ya? Yes, sir, Toyota trucks. Find yours at toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
See your Omaha Metro and Lincoln Toyota dealers. Corwin Toyota of Bellevue, Village Point Toyota of Omaha, Baxter Toyota of La Vista, or Baxter Toyota of Lincoln.
Noddle Companies proudly supports the Huskers Radio Network. As a full-service leader in commercial real estate, we create thriving communities. Discover what's new in the Builders District in North Downtown, Noddle Hospitality's latest venture in Exarban Village, and the contemporary living of row house townhomes on Leavenworth. We're welcoming world-class concepts from men's fashion and great eats to gorgeous homes and green spaces, all professionally managed by Noddle Services. These are the Noddle Companies, building a better Nebraska. For more information, check us out on Facebook and Instagram.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your crawl space and damaging your home. Musty smells, sagging floors, mold are just a few signs your crawl space is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns: a free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com. License number C142293.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the ninth inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
Your next vehicle is waiting for you at Woodhouse. With over 20 locations and a variety of brands, Woodhouse offers everything from reliable trucks to family-friendly SUVs. Whether you're looking for a Nissan, Mazda, or Infiniti, our team is here to help you find the perfect fit. Enjoy a seamless car buying experience with our expert staff and exceptional service. Visit Woodhouse today, where quality, selection, and customer satisfaction come first. Or get started online at woodhouse.com.
Will Bolt, Nebraska Baseball Coaches Show here on Sports Nightly, brought to you by Akrs, the Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center, sponsored by Akrs, the Midwest premier John Deere dealer supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Nick Hanley in with you here on Sports Nightly and our Nebraska Baseball Coaches Show. Huskers taking on Kansas tomorrow night, and then it's a 3-game set on the road with Iowa in Iowa City, but then Nebraska back home for a couple more weekends. And I want to get into just the workload. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, of having those Tuesday, Wednesday outings, and then you go into a weekend, especially on a road series. This is the first of the rest of the way where we only get the one midweek game. The routine, practice-wise, and how you prepare for the upcoming weekend, just having that one day of extra preparation, and in your history with seeing that schedule play out, how does that impact the team?
Well, it takes off some wear and tear on the legs at this point of the year. And with practice, as you get this deep into the season, it's less about repping out a ton of stuff, because you feel like at this point you've kind of gotten into those game situations enough, and you'll hit some finer points here and there. But it's more of the wear and tear. It's more of the routine, as you said, and also just being able to have that extra day that you can spend, with a side session, whether it be a flat ground with a guy or, the hitters, just having that extra day. And that, like I said, that helped a lot coming back from California, where we had those 2 extra days that we could get some hitting in, and we've really kind of seen things turn since that point in time. So it's just kind of back to more of a normal schedule. As you recall, last week really wasn't supposed to be a 5-game week, but we made that game up with Omaha. Felt that was important to get that game in, and so Yeah, just a matter of wear and tear at this point, and typically what our days are going to look like is Monday's an off day. We play Tuesday and then practice Wednesday, Thursday. This week a little unique because we're going down to Lawrence this evening, and we'll have a practice, and we'll take Wednesday off.
And was the idea behind that too, with getting the trip usually, which is a one-day thing? We've seen that in Manhattan. You'll go Tuesday morning, and then you'll play the game, come back late Tuesday night, just to get the guys a chance to get there, relax, not have to wake up so early, and just kind of ease into the day, as opposed to making essentially 24 hours of bus, game, back on the bus, and then you're probably feeling it a little bit that following day.
Yeah, and it's an extra hour to Lawrence than it is to Manhattan, really. So it's 3.5 hours on the bus, and just knowing that Kansas is a really good team, and Kansas State for that matter as well. But you feel like the 2.5 hours, kind of that's not quite as bad on the bus, but then you get to a 3.5 hour bus ride, it becomes a little more difficult to get off the bus and get yourself going against a really quality team. And so I just wanted to switch it up this year and stay a night and let them see the ballpark tonight, move around a little bit, and be able to just have a little more downtime on Tuesday.
I wanted to get your thoughts. We haven't had a chance to really talk about a lot of the moving and shaking in the Big Ten right now, especially with the additions, which you've had a chance now to see 3 of those 4 new additions. But you're going to face one of the top teams in the Big Ten this weekend in Iowa, and that reputation that they have right now is what they're doing offensively, but they can throw it a little bit too. Anything surprised you so far? And I know you're so ingrained in what you guys are doing, but just taking a step and looking at the landscape of the Big Ten right now, has anything stood out to you at this point of the season?
I just think that it's now everybody has access to good players, and so at every level. So the Big Ten is no different there, and teams are doing a good job of replenishing their rosters every year, and I just think that this league this year is as strong as it's ever been, especially with the addition of a top 10 UCLA team. Obviously surprised some people, I think, just in terms of their turnaround from last year to this year. USC is much improved. So those 2 teams have added a lot to the league. Obviously, Oregon has been a very consistent program. So yeah, I mean, it's week in and week out. There's no weeks off. There's no, hey, we'll go take care of this team, no problem. Everybody has good players, and if you don't play well, you're going to lose. And kind of what you've seen a little bit too now that teams are more experienced is the defense has gotten better. I think there used to be quite a few extra outs given over the course of the weekend in the Big Ten, especially in comparison to maybe the SEC and some of the other conferences. Again, weather plays a factor in that. Outside time plays a factor in that, certainly, but you're seeing a lot less of that, I think, now with some of the older teams, and everybody's got access to good players that you got to go earn everything you get.
And you guys are obviously very familiar with Rick Heller and that Iowa baseball program, but I know you guys weren't surprised with what you were going into against UCLA when we started that California trip, especially, and we talked about it, that sophomore class that when they were recruited was, by some publications, the #1 recruiting class too, that it was going to be a matter of time, maybe not that long, and we're seeing the results of that now with the majority of that group that's sophomores that are really impacting that team. Yeah,
they're as good a Big Ten team as we've played, and I think I said that the week after we played them, and no disrespect to anybody else that has been on our schedule or will be on our schedule, but I just thought they were very well-rounded. And again, we're playing them in the 4th week of the season when we're normally playing non-conference, and hey, you gotta go find a way to win, and we're in all 3 of those games. Had the lead in the middle innings and just didn't finish. So that's kind of where we got to get over the hump, is those middle innings and getting some stops.
And that kind of goes into the battle test of this team right now, going into a crucial part of the schedule, especially with all Big Ten play and really trying to make up some ground in the conference. You've seen some of the best teams, whether it's in conference or non-conference. You're going to see another good one this weekend. You're going to see another good one tomorrow as well. At this point, kind of what I mentioned with those guys in the batter's box and seeing the arms they're seeing, collectively as a team, I don't think there's anything your team right now is going to flinch at based on what you've already seen at this point.
No, not at all. I mean, like I said in the earlier segment, we've played 6 teams ranked in the top 25, and probably another couple that are just outside the top 25. So, Yeah, we've seen it all. Very good left-handed pitching, very good right-handed pitching, very good lineups. Again, you play those good teams. You very rarely do you get extra outs handed to you by the free passes. So you got to go earn it, and that's where you got to slug a little bit, and you got to set some innings up, and certainly you got to get the leadoff hitter, and you got to get off the field with 2 outs to avoid some crooked numbers. You mentioned Tucker's on his way back, which is great news, and we've been talking about that the last couple of weeks, monitoring his progress, which is just remarkable. I know as far as on the injury front, there's always going to be some nicks and bruises here and there. Saw Will get a little bit banged up on that play at the plate. But for the most part, everybody good going into the stretch? Yeah, Hogan's a little dinged up. He kind of had a freak deal coming off the field. He slipped on the dugout stairs and twisted his ankle on Friday. Kind of a unfortunate set of circumstances there. He's moving around better. He swung a little bit on Sunday. Probably will be available in a limited capacity tomorrow night. But yeah, other than that, just kind of the typical stuff that goes on throughout the year. And, you know, on the mound, like you said, getting Tucker back. Yeah. You know, that'll hopefully help solidify some roles in the pen and give us another quality arm. Not just a quality arm, but a competitive quality arm that's going to attack the strike zone. And know one thing about Tuck, he's very fearless. And the more guys we can have that go do that, they'll rub off and it'll become contagious. And that's the one area that I know people have probably asked you about or brought up is physically he should be good. Is there going to be a little bit of that hesitation just based on the last time he was in a competitive situation? And you bring up the mentality right there. I think that'd be a surprise if there was any lingering effects just from that standpoint. No, I don't think any effect that he might have that'd be lingering would be physical only, I think. And, you know, he'll be fully cleared at 6 weeks, you know, to go this weekend, like I said. So not anticipating him, you know, tiptoeing in. I mean, he's been salivating. I think he thinks he can go pitch right now. And, you know, what we've seen now with 3 live outings, I wouldn't disagree with him. Yeah. Will Bolt Coach Show continues. It is brought to you by Woodhouse. Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. We'll wrap up our conversation with head coach Will Bolt on the Nebraska Baseball Coaches Show here after this on Huskers Radio Network and Sports Nightly.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the 9th inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
This season, give your soybeans the upgraded protection they deserve. With CVA Elite Fungicide Insecticide Seed Treatment plus Saltro, you'll get stronger above and below ground vigor and enhanced SDS protection, helping you maximize ROI. Talk to your Central Valley Ag Field Sales Agronomist or visit CVACoop.com today. Our planet is hungry. Together, we feed it. Central Valley Ag, the official co-op of Husker Nation.
O'Reilly. Protect your vehicle's engine with Syntec and O'Reilly Auto Parts. Syntec Full Synthetic Motor Oil is formulated for today's engines to protect against wear and deposits. Get 5 quarts of Syntec Full Synthetic and a MicroGuard Select filter for just $33.99 in-store only. Limit supply. Learn more at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You're going to feel a puff of air.
Jong's Optometry has set their sights on staffing up.
Try the next line. Hey, Kim, can you tell her 2 o'clock we're running 15 behind? Sorry, we're a bit backed up today.
He needs an optometric technician to keep an eye on it all.
Where are the dilation drops?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Spend your day with Nebraska football at Memorial Stadium on Saturday, April 26th as part of the Husker Games. Cheer on members of the 2025 team, as well as Husker greats of the past, as they put their skills on display in various activities, including skill competitions and 7-on-7 games. The action starts at 2, and tickets are just $10 for adults and $1 for youth aged 8th grade and younger. Get your tickets today at huskers.com/tickets. Go Big Red.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Life doesn't come with guarantees, but working with Rob Seco comes pretty close. Our strategic investments in the seed we offer are designed to directly improve your bottom line. From full trait platforms, breeding and development, to field-by-field planning and seed-driven crop inputs, with Rob Seco, you have precisely what you need to improve plant performance and increase yield. Every farm, every crop, and every acre. Learn more at robseco.com.
Husker fans, it's game day, and Pizza Hut's got your perfect play. Score the Game Day Special for just $29.99. Get 2 medium 3-topping pizzas, 8 boneless wings, and 5 breadsticks. Enough to feed 8 hungry fans. Pizza, wings, breadsticks, and more. It's the ultimate lineup to fuel your game day. Check out the full menu online at pizzahut.com or in store. Because remember, no one out-pizzas the Hut.
Every day. Hy-Vee dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier. Our final segment here with head coach Will Bolt before Huskers do hit the road. We were talking a little bit about this during the commercial break, too. Cool thing, and I know the coaching staffs amongst the athletic department always pulling for each other and always trying to go out and support. Obviously, if you guys didn't have a game this weekend, maybe you would have been out in Vegas. I don't know. Well, there was that 11 days in California,
That's
too.
right.
Maybe you would have stayed home. But great to see Fred Hoiberg basketball team being able to win the inaugural crown and little financial incentive there. But always good to see a championship, no matter what form it comes in.
Heck yeah. And I was, as soon as I got home yesterday, I plugged in and saw that the game was on and got to catch about the last 11 minutes of the game. Got to see a Season make a bunch of three-pointers. Yeah. And it was pretty cool just how they finished that game and how well they played in that tournament, and just a unique day and age of college sports there where, what the prize money is and some of those things. But, man, the thing I was impressed with is how loud the stadium was with obviously with Husker fans.
Yeah.
I'm sure quite a few made the trip out there once they got in that championship game, and it was loud. It was really, really loud for the Huskers there.
It's interesting, too, and I don't know if it would ever enter the baseball world of what revenue share, collective money, and now that part of the game in athletics that is now legal, things that people were, administrators were trying to fight against for so long, how that does lead to these unique postseason opportunities. And again, I don't know if it's ever even been discussed about how that could be a thing in baseball, too, but it has changed things. I mean, from the day-to-day, from what you guys do, from recruiting and how everything is going to shake out. But from what I understand, too, still waiting to see what this thing exactly is going to look like with this rev share as well.
Yeah, and we should be getting at least maybe a preliminary answer here. The hearing and the settlement's supposed to happen within days. So hopefully we get some more information there. But, yeah, we have a kind of an assumption of what things are going to look like. But that gets you you just never know. You never know what's going to happen. We do feel like our rosters are going to get smaller. Scholarships are capable of going up. It's going to be up to the certain schools and rev share. Who decides to do what in baseball, who knows? So I just think that the sport has changed tremendously. All college athletics have, but just the baseball in particular is just completely different than it was when I was hired 6 years ago at Nebraska. It's changed a couple of times now, and there's always things that you're having to keep up with, when it comes to building a roster. And like I said, you really look around the country, the best rosters, a lot of them are made up of older players that have transferred from different places. And I think, speaking of Kansas playing them tomorrow, I think they've got just about every hitter in their lineup as a transfer of some sort, and they're hitting over 300 with 70 homers. So development's still a big piece of the puzzle, but roster building is really kind of the bigger piece than it's ever been.
And with the expected changes that are coming, essentially, and for a program like Nebraska in the Big Ten that does have some advantages when it comes to what you can provide the student athlete that we've seen in this entire athletic department, really doesn't change the importance of being able to, for you and for Mike and Rob and Lance to be out there recruiting, being able to have that talent evaluation. When it comes to the money part of it, obviously that'll come at a later time, but it obviously does put more emphasis, though, on that talent evaluation, probably more so than ever, too.
Yeah, smaller roster, fewer misses, fewer developmental guys that can kind of just sit and wait their turn, and then, there's not a whole lot of availability for that because we don't know where the roster is. It going to be 34 in the fall? Is it going to be, where's that going to land? And so, yeah, it's really important that we get the right guys that fit our program, and also just, again, trying to figure out what the scholarship landscape's going to look like, some of the other pieces of the puzzle. It's ever evolving.
You mentioned with basketball, and we saw it the Friday game against Oregon State, and really a decent crowd this entire weekend as the weather started to cooperate a little bit too. On the road against Iowa this weekend, but then a couple series now getting into Lincoln before we go to Maryland. This is where I know you really lean on the fans as well to get that extra charge, and we've seen the impact already this season on what it's done. Series win over Oregon State, series win over Rutgers. Those next series at home are going to obviously be very big, especially where there's a lot of moving and shaking going on in the Big Ten standings.
Yeah, and we have a great opportunity down the stretch here. Like I said, the first 19 of 24 were on the road, and still got obviously 4 road games this week, but more home games down the stretch, and a lot of games that are going to really matter, and hopefully we have some great weather, because when the weather's good, Husker fans typically always show up. Even when the weather's not good, Husker fans show up, but with no gloves on and it's a little warmer, you can hear the claps a little louder and some of those things. So
I was surprised that Sunday where we were delayed a little bit against Oregon State, there are people that they showed up and then they started coming back in droves, and hey, they got treated to a pretty good performance, especially at the end there, too.
Yeah, and I thought yesterday's crowd was great because it was a nice day out, and we had a lot of fans in the stands.
Coach, appreciate it as always. Safe travels up to Lawrence. We'll see you out there tomorrow night, and then look forward to seeing you in Iowa City as well.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
Coach Will Bolt, Nebraska Baseball Coaches Show here at hour number 1 of Sports Nightly. Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center, sponsored by Akrs, Midwest Premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Speaking of Nebraska basketball, going to be talking about that in hour number 2. Robin Washut of Husker Online and On 3 will be joining us as we'll get his thoughts on what he saw out in Vegas, but also the future of that roster. That's all coming up here in hour 2. Don't go anywhere on Sports Nightly.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health, and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraska-chiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
In the heartland, where ambition thrives, there are those who are made and those who are made for more.
Just like the Huskers on game day, Kloss, a leading producer of ag equipment, unleashes the power of ambition in the field. Discover why our cutting-edge machinery and unwavering support aren't just a promise, they're a commitment to your success. Because at Kloss, we know you are made for more. Visit your Kloss dealer or CLAAS.com.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Which automaker employs the most hourly workers in the country? Ford. Which automaker assembles the most vehicles in the country? Ford. That's not a coincidence. It's a commitment. A commitment Ford dealers share by offering employee pricing across a full lineup of Ford vehicles.
Now get employee pricing available across a full lineup of Ford trucks and SUVs. Employee pricing. You pay what we pay. Only from your local Ford dealer.
Good evening. I'm Russ Brown, and tonight's ticker is brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Nebraska baseball travels to number 22 Kansas tomorrow. It will be Ryan Harrihill on the mound. He is 0-0 with a 3.24 ERA. He'll face Patrick Stites, 2-0 on the season with an ERA of 3.27. You can hear the game right here on the Huskers Radio Network. Pre-game coverage with Nick Hanley starts at 5:30. The Nebraska softball team will be back in action on Wednesday evening as they host Creighton. You can hear that as well right here on the Huskers Radio Network with pregame coverage starting at 5:45. Nate Rohr will have the call of that one. And coming up here in just about 45 minutes, it's the NCAA National Championship game as the Florida Gators will face the Houston Cougars. You can see it on CBS. Call a timeout. If you're someone you know is struggling or in crisis, the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there. Call, text, or chat 988. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Up next, hour number 2 of Sports Nightly, right here on the Huskers Radio Network.
Coming to you live from Memorial Stadium, it's Sports Nightly. All the Huskers, all the time. Sports Nightly is presented to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office, who remind you to buckle up and put the phone down.
The Sejan behind the screen, dances around, hezzy move, pump fake, out it comes to Jacobson, puts it up and in! Holy smokes! Way to go, Cale Jacobson from Ashland, Nebraska, into the starting lineup 3 games ago, hits a huge, humongous, gigundous 3. Bryce Williams, 3 dribbles, all Big Ten, All-American, free throw up, got the record. Bryce Williams, 709 points, single season scoring record, and Nebraska's up by 11 with 1:05 to go.
Ryan's set. Here's the 1-1. Riley swings and hits one through the left side. That's a base hit. Overbeek scores. Here comes Sanderson. The throw is going to come all the way home. Beating the throw is Case. It's a 2-run knock for Riley Silva. Nebraska back on top, 7-5.
The 0-1. Bland swings and drives it. Center field and deep and gone! Home run, Samantha Bland! She has the hat trick! 3 home runs today for Bland. 8-1 Huskers.
Now, here is your host, Nick Hanley, on the Huskers Radio Network.
Hi again, everybody, and welcome to University of Nebraska basketball. It is a Sunday and a very special one indeed. Kent Pavelka along with Jake Muehlheisen. We are at the T-Mobile Center in Las Vegas for the championship game of the Crown. Jacobson driving the ball, took a bump. He's in the paint. He throws it out to Morgan. Out it comes to Williams now. 3 on the clock. Jacobson hands it off to Gary. 3-ball. Got it! Bang! Orang! Jawan Gary, who's averaged 21 points a game the last 6 games, scores the first points of the game for the Big Red. Here is a Sejan with a long 3, 27-footer, no good. Long rebound run down and a slap in bounce by the save and the layup by Sejan. Great play by Hoiberg to save the day. Chom inside, 7-1 against 7-2. And here's Hoiberg with a take and the flip on the right side. Williams got a good look, puts it up. Got it! Splash! Nothing but Netola for Bryce Williams. And Williams has 6 points on 2 threes. Williams gives it off now to Hoiberg across the timeline. Looking for an early opportunity. Flips it off to Sejan. 3-ball. Got it! Bang! A ring! Connor Sejan gives Nebraska a 23-11 lead. Hoiberg looking, finds Williams. Squares, shoots, 3, no good. Rebound Gary, put back up, got it, and an and 1. Jawan Gary, who was in the locker room not 2 minutes ago, bleeding, back on the floor. He's got a chance for a 3-point play, and Nebraska's cut that lead to 6. Rebound Nebraska, Gary to Williams. Williams to Gary, drives the ball, puts it up and in. It's up and down, and it's a 49-46 3-point ball game. Morgan hands it off a Sejan. Square shoots the 3. Got it! Bang! Harang! Another 3 for the Cornhuskers. This time, a Sejan bags it. It's 52-49 3-point game. Now a double team comes in the paint. Gary puts it up. Contact, no foul. Loose ball. Morgan, Hoiberg's got it. Morgan, a Sejan, 25-footer. Got it! Got it! Got it! Got it! Tie game! 52-52. Nebraska's come from 14 points behind to tie this game. Now they go to work on the offensive end.
Same set.
Came down from 14 up by 2. Here's a drive and another dunk. Back-to-back flushes. 2 paws by Morgan. Assist by Williams. Nebraska's up by 4. 56-52. Hands it off to Hoiberg, coming left to right. Squares up left side. Sejan, good look. Got it! 59-52. The Huskers up by 7 after trailing by 14. Sejan warming up now. Morgan gives it off to Gary, sets a screen for him. As Gary drives it, puts it up. It does not go down. Puts it back up and in. Right up after his own miss. Tapped it up and in. And Nebraska's up by 7. To Sejan behind the screen. Dances around. Hezzy move. Pump fake. Out it comes to Jacobson. Puts it up and in. Holy smokes. Way to go, Cale. Cale Jacobson from Ashland, Nebraska. Into the starting lineup 3 games ago. Hits a huge, humongous, gigundous 3. Hoiberg at the timeline. Out to Sejan driving, throwing up the runner, got it off the glass. Tough shot, great angle, good touch by Sejan, and back to an 8-point lead. And here is Hoiberg driving the ball down inside, kicks it out. Cale drives the ball to the rack, puts it up, got it! A 2-ball by Cale. He hit a 3, now he hit a 2, and Nebraska's up by 10. Bryce Williams, 3 dribbles, all Big Ten, All-American, free throw up. Got the record. Bryce Williams, 709 points. Single season scoring record, and Nebraska's up by 11 with 1:05 to go. Listen to the crowd here in the background. Nebraska with the crown here. They grab the crown, and if the crown fits, wear it, my boys. There's the horn, there's the game. Husker Hoops, college basketball's royalty, wins the crown over UCF. Final score, Huskers 77, UCF 66. And it's a championship at the end of the year.
Well, there you have it. Hour number 2 here of Sports Nightly on the Huskers Radio Network. Nick Hanley with you here the entire way. First of all, big thanks to Will Bolt joining us in hour number 1 for the Will Bolt Nebraska Baseball Coaches Show. Huskers taking on Kansas tomorrow, then Iowa in Iowa City this weekend. But it was all about basketball as well yesterday. As you heard right there, and the last 24 hours have been really fun to be able to talk about the crown, the inaugural men's basketball, college basketball crown, where the Huskers win 77-66. And really a tone that was set as soon as Nebraska had accepted that invite and decided to play in the crown. We had heard Fred Hoiberg, Juwan Gary, Bryce Williams, other players talk about it. Very businesslike, but also really embrace this opportunity. And I think the big question always was, is this essentially going to jive with how they play in Las Vegas? And I think without question, from the time they played Arizona State in that very first game, which seems like it was 3 weeks ago, and really what a kind of a fun week of college basketball out there in Vegas, all the way to the very end, where it just always seemed like not only did Nebraska on the floor have that type of determination that they wanted to get this accomplished, they wanted to go out a winner. There was a lot of reference to going out to Hawaii and winning there all the way back in the non-conference in the latter part of 2024, the first part of the season, and try to draw from that. But the fact that you had guys that all, unless they were injured, and Riley Wooster, who couldn't play because he had the foot injury, everybody opted in. They wanted to be a part of this. And watching Nebraska and Central Florida yesterday, the Huskers win 77-66, it was interesting to see 2 teams that seemed to go about it the exact same way. I mean, these were determined teams, and really watching the semifinals as well, of teams that were really trying to get to that championship game and seemed to be playing it like it reminded me kind of a conference tournament. Now, it's tough to compare this to anything that you're seeing in the NCAA national championship setting, in the Final Four setting, and obviously going to be crowning a national champion tonight. But seeing the way that Nebraska was able to play this with such sense of urgency, times where, and yesterday was a great example, where Nebraska, they have to withstand that huge run there in the second half from Central Florida, and all of a sudden Central Florida's got a lead. Nebraska's sense of urgency throughout this entire tournament, I thought, was remarkable. And I thought that for this team to go about it that way, and what the outside world would look at this tournament and say, okay, it's just another one of those postseason tournaments for teams that didn't make the NCAA tournament. Obviously, there is a lot of opportunity that comes with that. And we're going to talk to Robin Washut of On3 and Husker Online here in a bit and get his thoughts on not only the impact of what Nebraska did this past week, but also how that could impact their roster, because there's some big holes, obviously, you have to fill. But Jessica and I talked about this a week ago. Having that national television exposure and having the game on Big Fox, and you've got Gus doing the game, and there's always, whether you're always with Gus or not, there's something about his voice that you associate a big game with. Nebraska was a part of that, and you have Gus Johnson for 2.5 hours, and really more than that because of his calls earlier in the week. And you had Kugler and Nick Baugh doing good stuff as well during this tournament. That this is essentially an endorsement for this basketball program on a Sunday where they crowned a women's national title. And then you have a chance, if you wanted to see some more hoops, well, then you could watch the men's college basketball crown championship game, and you're watching it all about Nebraska and essentially a PSA about Nebraska's basketball program. Everybody knows Fred Hoiberg. Then you're getting to see him coach in a championship-type setting and a team that is playing at that level in this tournament to win it all. All of that bodes very well for Nebraska. So for any transfers out there that Nebraska has their eye on and they're keeping Nebraska on their radar, yesterday was a huge day from that standpoint. There's no question. That was a big moment for this program. And a lot of the talk and changing the narrative, in my opinion, was really big because that narrative, when Selection Sunday took place, was Nebraska basketball having that collapse at the end of the year. And how do you pick up the pieces from that? Okay, are you going to play in that crown? We all knew that that was a likely possibility, but what is that really going to mean? Are they going to win it? To where the narrative shifted, and it was fun to watch this team, and it was very reminiscent of watching this team in January and even a decent amount of February where they were a talk of being in the NCAA tournament. The only question was, what type of seed would they get? Obviously, we know that changed with how Nebraska just fell short there at the end. But to be able to pick up and have that layoff, which was probably very good for this basketball team, to get off their feet a little bit, to reset, and to really set their sights on this with that financial incentive, not only for these players, but also for this basketball program. These guys played like they had a chip on their shoulder. And I think that, again, starts with who are you taking the tone from? From the head coach. The first time we heard Fred Hoiberg talk about Nebraska being in this tournament, he talked about it in such a positive way. This is a great opportunity for their basketball program, and the players followed suit. Those guys competed. We talked so much about Cale Jacobson being kind of the cool story of this tournament for Nebraska because he just had such limited minutes. Fred mentioned him during the postgame when he was addressing the crowd and everyone. So that was a cool story. But seeing Juwan Gary and Bryce Williams embrace each other afterwards, and you could tell that was an emotional moment for those guys because they came back. They're kind of, I think, as they described, sort of the ride or die guys. Those are close guys. They built that relationship in the 2 short years that Bryce was here, and what Juwan Gary meant to this Nebraska basketball program for him to be the MVP of the tournament. Just a lot of cool moments that otherwise you thought eluded this team when they didn't qualify for the Big Ten tournament, when they didn't qualify for the NCAA tournament. And it still shows that culture we've talked about so many times that Fred Hoiberg has really built is still a pretty strong one. Because I don't care if you're playing in the NIT or you're playing in the Crown or any tournament in between, if you can play quality basketball enough times to win and be there at the end and win the championship, to me that's a good coaching job. Good coaching job and some really good veterans. Obviously, Juwan Gary and Bryce Williams are a big part of that. But really cool to see. We're going to talk more about this. Robin Washut of Husker Online on 3 going to be joining me here after the break as we'll talk more about that. Mention the national championship game, men's college basketball, a big matchup. We'll get into that. We'll also get some football storylines from this past week. Spring practice continues. Yeah, we did see Dylan Raiola supporting the men's basketball team yesterday, but back to work this week for the Husker football team. We'll talk about all of that as we continue here. Hour number 2, don't go anywhere. It's Sports Nightly.
Which automaker employs the most hourly workers in the country? Ford. Which automaker assembles the most vehicles in the country? Ford. That's not a coincidence. It's a commitment. A commitment Ford dealers share by offering employee pricing across a full lineup of Ford vehicles.
Now get employee pricing available across a full lineup of Ford trucks and SUVs. Employee pricing, you pay what we pay. Only from your local Ford dealer.
Nebraska Lottery.
Hey, I heard Trucks and Bucks is back.
Yes, sir. And this year you could win one of 8 new gray trucks. People from around the state just love this game.
They do?
You bet. Just this morning, I got calls from excited players in Burwell, Sutton, Falls City, and Ralston.
Well, you can add Wilbur to the list.
You're from Wilbur?
No, that's my name.
Oh.
Hey, if you get a call from Alma, that's my aunt.
That's her name?
No, that's where she lives.
Trucks and Bucks top prize odds are 1 in 336,000.
For farmers, sustainability is a way of life. 97% of farms are family-owned, and 95% are participating in conservation programs and using sustainable practices.
I'm Ann Meese, a farmer near Elgin, Nebraska. I grew up on this land, and we're dedicated to being good stewards and leaving it better for the next generation.
Since 1980, U.S. soybean farmers have boosted production by 130%, all while lowering emissions and improving land and water use. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Your next vehicle is waiting for you at Woodhouse. With over 20 locations and a variety of brands, Woodhouse offers everything from reliable trucks to family-friendly SUVs. Whether you're looking for a Nissan, Mazda, or Infiniti, our team is here to help you find the perfect fit. Enjoy a seamless car buying experience with our expert staff and exceptional service. Visit Woodhouse today, where quality, selection, and customer satisfaction come first. Or get started online at woodhouse.com.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Life doesn't come with guarantees, but working with Rob Seco comes pretty close. Our strategic investments in the seed we offer are designed to directly improve your bottom line. From full trait platforms, breeding and development, to field-by-field planning and seed-driven crop inputs, with Rob Seco, you have precisely what you need to improve plant performance and increase yield. Every farm, every crop, and every acre. Learn more at robseco.com.
Husker fans, it's game day, and Pizza Hut's got your perfect play. Score the game day special for just $29.99. Get 2 medium 3-topping pizzas, 8 boneless wings, and 5 breadsticks. Enough to feed 8 hungry fans. Pizza, wings, breadsticks, and more. It's the ultimate lineup to fuel your game day. Check out the full menu online at pizzahut.com or in store. Because remember, no one out-pizzas the Hut.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health, and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraska-chiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
In the heartland, where ambition thrives, there are those who are made and those who are made for more. Just like the Huskers on game day, Kloss, a leading producer of ag equipment, unleashes the power of ambition in the field. Discover why our cutting-edge machinery and unwavering support aren't just a promise, they're a commitment to your success. Because at Kloss, we know you are made for more. Visit your Kloss dealer or CLAAS.com.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Which automaker employs the most hourly workers in the country? Ford. Which automaker assembles the most vehicles in the country? Ford. That's not a coincidence. It's a commitment. A commitment Ford dealers share by offering employee pricing across a full lineup of Ford vehicles.
Now get employee pricing available across a full lineup of Ford trucks and SUVs. Employee pricing, you pay what we pay. Only from your local Ford dealer.
Well, number 2 here of Sports Nightly continuing, brought to you by Woodhouse. Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. Continuing to discuss the Big Crown Championship for the Nebraska men's basketball team. Winners over Central Florida 77-66. To talk more about the impact of this and also the future of this roster, because there's no rest for the weary trying to get an idea of what the 25-26 Husker men's basketball team might look like. We welcome in Robin Washut of Husker Online and On3, doing great work and on the basketball beat for so long. Robin, first of all, good to hear from you, my man. How are things going?
Going well. It's been a wild week, as you can imagine. Living on the Vegas Strip for 7 days is it's an experience, and one that it was fun while we were there, but I'm also glad to be home and not paying Las Vegas Strip prices on everything. So good trip all in all, but again, I'm ready to be back in the good life.
That's all reimbursed though, right? From Sean Callahan. He's taking care of you, right?
Yeah, to an extent, like that per diem runs out pretty quick out there. So anything beyond, and then of course you're in Las Vegas, so there's other expenses that come along with that. Well,
you just got to be luckier at the tables next time, but that's all right.
Exactly.
But Robin,
exactly.
This was such a cool moment, and really, I wasn't sure overall how the crown would be received amongst not only the college basketball world, but really just sports enthusiasts in general. I love the way and where they place the championship game. You get the women's national championship. You kind of have a little bit of a thirst for more basketball before we crown a national champion tonight. And yet there was I thought, a lot of eyeballs, not just Nebraska fans, but also seeing a lot of the national writers tweeting and really taking in that Nebraska Central Florida championship game. What were your expectations about just this whole tournament and being there and getting a chance to watch it unfold in front of your eyes? What did you come away and take away with it?
Yeah, I think I was like a lot of people, where I kind of had my reservations or even doubts about how it was all going to go. And really that kind of stemmed from just really not a lot of information about the tournament leading up to, go back to Selection Sunday. The entire Selection Sunday goes through and there's still no crown bracket, and the only news you're hearing is teams backing out of it. And so there was some people that were wondering if that tournament was even going to happen. Then finally, the next day, I believe is St. Patrick's Day, I can't remember, but either way, they announced the field. And I think when you compared the crown field to what the NIT ended up with, I think that started to make people take notice a little bit that, the more, heavier name bracket is with the crown now, where only a couple of high majors are participating in the NIT. So that's kind of where I think maybe the opinion started to switch. But, I still think there was, again, some hesitancy about just what this was going to look like. Is it just some, Vegas shtick tournament that they're just going to slap together and try to make some money off of people, or is it going to be a real bona fide postseason event? And when I got there, I'll say firsthand, they ran a great operation. It was really well done, really well organized. I know they separate themselves from the NIT in the fact that they pay for every team's travel, so the teams got charter flights, they got their hotels covered, and all that sort of stuff that with the NIT, you're kind of on your own for a lot of those costs. So that is another separator between the crown and the NIT. And then just, being there for as long as we were, I think you kind of saw it really come together more and more. Where that first Monday, there was maybe 500 people in the arena, and it was kind of sparse, to say the least. But, as Nebraska kept winning and more fans started showing up, by that championship game, there was, I think they listed at just over 3,000 people in the arena, and the way that they had it roped off, or I guess curtained off, a 20,000 seat hockey arena was basically cut down to roughly 7,000 seats. And when half of it was full of a lot of passionate Nebraska fans, it actually created a decent environment, especially when Nebraska got rolling in the second half. So in all, just from the organizational standpoint of the event, it far exceeded my expectations, which I admit were pretty low going in. But I think that they, kind of set a bar for, them being able to handle, this level of tournament. And, with the logistics of it all, and the scheduling of it, it was great for TV, like you mentioned. It laid out perfectly, and that's why they held it when they did. And I think their hope is that when the summer meetings happen, they maybe start to reevaluate when the portal actually opens next year, so that it might happen after the Final Four. And if that's the case, then you're probably going to have a lot more teams willing and able to participate it, especially with, you know, the financial component, not just with getting all your expenses covered and being on national television, but the NIL incentive part of it too. So, you know, there's a lot of positives in the Crown's favor, and I think with this year one being as successful as it was, it's only going to continue to probably build more, I guess, trust and maybe legitimacy in the college basketball world going forward.
We're talking with Robin Washut of Husker Online. And Robin, you wrote about this after the game, and I think it was something I'd mentioned in our previous segment as far as the tone that was set by Fred Hoiberg, that first press conference, the first post-Crown acceptance of that invitation, that what the overall tone for Fred and their overall enthusiasm and excitement. And Fred is, I mean, he's a professional. He's so even keel. But there always just seemed to be an excitement with this opportunity. And I think a lot of coaches are going to say that initially, but is the team going to follow suit when it's finally time to get on the court and play a competitive matchup? I thought Nebraska, from the first time Fred Hoiberg spoke about this opportunity in the Crown and the players to follow, I thought their actions on the floor were very consistent of a team that was very determined to see this thing through.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And, you know, they got the invitation, I guess, probably right before Selection Sunday, and they knew that they weren't going to make the NCAA tournament. And they held a team meeting, and there was zero hesitation from Nebraska's players about wanting to play. And the most vocal guys that said, we're going to do this and we're going to, go all in. This isn't, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, were Bryce Williams and Juwan Gary. So, like, their best players and best leaders were the ones that really embraced this thing from the get-go. And you saw that play out where it was pretty obvious just watching, a lot of the other teams play in this deal that this thing meant as much, if not the most, to Nebraska than any other team in the field. And that's a big part of why they won. They played with a determination. They started playing with some confidence, whereas, other teams were just kind of there, maybe trying to get a payday or whatever it may be. Like, Nebraska had a lot of incentive to try to win this thing. So they played like it, and they were able to capitalize on an opportunity that, they were determined to end their season on a high note, and they did it. And, it's not, they fell short of their ultimate goal. So the reality is that this is a consolation prize. Mm-hmm. But in terms of consolation prizes, considering where this season was, just less than a month ago, it's about as good as you could ask for. And there's, some good positivity and momentum back within the program. And yeah, they're losing a lot of the, critical pieces on this roster, but they also had a bunch of guys that played and were big parts of this tournament run list this week. And, I think just having that experience and the confidence that comes with not just postseason success, but a postseason championship, that's something this program just hasn't had in a long time. It's their first postseason tournament in almost 30 years. So, like, you can say what you want about, Nebraska celebrating a basically participation ribbon prize, but like it's way more than that. And you could tell that it meant way more than that to the team and to the players with the way that they approached that thing from the get-go.
Robin, you mentioned players getting a chance. Obviously, that name, Cale Jacobson, going from maybe the most in conference play to be possibly a 7-minute stretch to, yesterday not only being in the starting lineup in this tournament, but giving you 25-plus minutes. Just what you saw from him, we know he's not going to come in and all of a sudden replace that scoring that you need from a Juwan Gary or Bryce Williams, but overall from a role standpoint, how important was it not only for Fred to get a chance to see a little bit more of that from Cale in a competitive setting, in a game-type setting, but also how important do you think it was for Cale Jacobson to also be thrown into that a little bit as well?
Yeah, it's huge on both accounts. because I think Nebraska always liked Cale a lot. Like when they took him as a preferred walk-on, a couple years ago at Ashland Greenwood, like they thought that they got an absolute steal from a walk-on commit because, he's the guy that could have played scholarship somewhere, and he turned those opportunities down because he wanted to play in Nebraska. And so, he's a guy that, like you said, his time on the floor was few and far between, this season. But when Raleigh Wooster went out with that foot injury, that created a pretty significant void in the backcourt. And, Cale, to his credit, with the way that he worked every single day, positioned himself to get that call from Fred Hoiberg and saying, hey, you're not looking to be the guy that's going to see some more minutes. We're going to throw you in the starting lineup. And he took full advantage of that opportunity. And that's, that probably for a lot of people, one of, if not the highlight of that tournament, to see a kid like Cale who, is just a local Nebraska kid that, rose to the occasion on that stage and played so well and, made one winning play after another over the course of those 4 games, to where now going into the offseason, you look at him a little differently. Like before, he was just kind of an end of the bench, potential depth guy. Now you're talking about, will we have a spot in the rotation next year? And so that's, quite the example of maximizing your opportunity when the opportunity presents itself. And it was really fun to just watch that, because Cale is as genuinely good of a person as you're ever going to meet. And, to see him get his flowers the way he did this week was just awesome on all accounts.
Robin, before we let you go, I know this is still no rest for the weary, as I'm sure a very tired and exhausted Nebraska coaching staff returning from Las Vegas, having to really dig in, not that they weren't already, but having to dig in even more to how they're going to address some of those big holes that they lose with Bryce Williams and Juwan Gary. What are you seeing from the path forward for Nebraska in this roster, what they need to address first and foremost, and really the bigger question, the likelihood that they can find some of those pieces on top of having Rink Mass come back that can make this a team that is finding themselves having their name mentioned on a Selection Sunday next year?
Yeah, I think they're off to a pretty good start. They got one of the guys that was at the top of their board in Price Sanford, the Iowa transfer, and probably above all else, the number one quality that Nebraska was looking for in this portal class was shooting. Their perimeter shooting was just not good enough all year, and it cost them games. And now they had to address that. They had to get more than just 1 or 2 guys that can consistently make a three-pointer for Fred's offense to really operate at the level that it's capable of operating. So that was a big part in checking that box with Price, who's a 40% three-point shooter last year. He's 6'7", so physically, he can hold his own. And I guess if nothing else, he had 2 of his best games of the season last year against Nebraska. And so, if nothing else, they don't have to play him again. So he's on their side now. So that was a good way to get the ball rolling. And then I'll admit I do not know how to master his name yet. We'll just call him Oogie for now. The big 6'10", 230-pound Lithuanian forward from Central Michigan, who committed the day after Bryce Sanford did. He gives them a lot of what they're losing with Andrew Morgan. He's not like the three-point shooter that Rink is, but he can do a little bit of everything, kind of like Morgan did. And he's best around the basket. Maybe his best attribute is his ability to finish at the rim. So, that was a need that with losing Morgan, losing Mia, like they just needed some post depth, and they were able to address that with Oogie. And so I think going forward, the biggest things, I think more scoring. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a, first-team All-American wing, but you need scores. Like, you need guys that can consistently shoot from. You need guys that can create shots off the dribble, especially if they can get someone that, when the clock's running down and, they just need somebody to go make a play. I just wonder who that is in that lineup right now. So that's one of the priorities, and the other one is a point guard. You lose Ulis, you lose Raleigh. You do bring back Sam and Cale, who played a lot of point especially during the tournament. But, the reality is your top 3 ball handlers with Bryce, Raleigh, and Ulis are all gone. So they got to find a way to address some depth there. And I'm curious to see if they go for more of like a traditional point guard route, or if they don't go for more of a scorer who can play the point. Because when you have Rink Mass back in the lineup, and keep in mind, he led the team in assists 2 years ago. And so, like, he'll be your primary facilitator out of the half court. And so if you can surround him with 4 shooters, all of a sudden you got a real potent lineup to work with. So I'm curious to see kind of the type of point guard they go after. One of the names is a familiar one that is on the radar, and that's Jamarcus Lawrence, who transferred from Nebraska this past year, went to Rhode Island, had kind of a mediocre year, but sounds like there's quite a bit of mutual interest there in a potential reunion. And so that would give you exactly what we're talking about, a guy that was primarily off the ball, but 2 years ago was playing point guard in Fred Hoiberg's offense, and was able to be a guy that could set the tempo in transition while also being a really good on-ball defender. So that would check some boxes that I think they're looking for. So, it's starting to take shape. You're seeing kind of the profile of players that they're looking for, but in the end, no quality is going to outweigh being the right fit. Like that's a formula that they identified, 3 years ago now, going back to the 22 class, where they're not just trying to get the best players and put them, all together and hope that they work together as a team. They're building guys that complement each other and can work off of each other and fit the culture that they've spent the last 3 years trying to build. Bryce Sanford fits that to a T. Like he's going to just be a seamless transition into Nebraska's locker room. And so those are the types of guys. They're looking for really good players, but they're also looking for really good fits with what they've worked so hard to build from a culture standpoint, especially with all the good vibes they built up down in Las Vegas. You need guys that are going to come in and keep that going. So, it's going to be talent, but it's also going to be about character.
All right, 5 seconds starts here in just a moment. Houston or Florida, who you got?
I'm going to say Florida, but Houston has proved me wrong several times already in this bracket, so I have a hard time saying that with a lot of confidence. I think Florida is probably the more talented team, but there's not a team in the country that plays defense like Houston, and that will keep you in every game that you play when they defend to their full ability.
Robin, always great talking to you, my man. Enjoy whatever the offseason entails for you. Look forward to seeing you here soon, buddy.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right, Robin Washut of Husker Online. Again, here in the Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center, sponsored by Akrs, Midwest Premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Back with more, get some spring football conversation going. And before we get out of here, our thoughts, our picks for tonight's national championship game as well as we continue here on Sports Nightly.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your foundation and damaging your home. Cracks in walls and uneven floors are just a few signs your foundation is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns: a free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com. License number C142293.
Nebraska Lottery.
Hey, I heard Trucks and Bucks is back.
Yes, sir. And this year you could win one of 8 new great trucks. People from around the state just love this game.
They do?
You bet. Just this morning, I got calls from excited players in Burwell, Sutton, Fall City, and Ralston.
Well, you can add Wilbur to the list.
You're from Wilbur?
No, that's my name.
Oh.
Hey, if you get a call from Alma, that's my aunt.
That's her name?
No, that's where she lives.
Trucks and Bucks top prize odds are 1 in 336,000.
Set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
Your next vehicle is waiting for you at Woodhouse. With over 20 locations and a variety of brands, Woodhouse offers everything from reliable trucks to family-friendly SUVs. Whether you're looking for a Nissan, Mazda, or Infiniti, our team is here to help you find the perfect fit. Enjoy a seamless car buying experience with our expert staff and exceptional service. Visit Woodhouse today, where quality, selection, and customer satisfaction come first. Or get started online at woodhouse.com.
In the heartland, where ambition thrives, there are those who are made and those who are made for more. Just like the Huskers on game day, Kloss, a leading producer of ag equipment, unleashes the power of ambition in the field. Discover why our cutting-edge machinery and unwavering support aren't just a promise, they're a commitment to your success. Because at Kloss, we know you are made for more. Visit your Kloss dealer or CLAAS.com.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Dear Truckin' Awesome, want more horsepower in the stable? The Tundra iForce Max is the most powerful Tundra ever. With its electrifying twin-turbo V6, you got everything you need. Saddle up the Tacoma TRD Pro. Its segment-first performance seats are designed to smooth out the shocks when the ride gets bumpy. The Toyota 4Runner is part mean streak, part wild side, and an all-around icon. Check out that signature power rear window, will ya? Yes, sir, Toyota trucks. Find yours at toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
See your Omaha Metro and Lincoln Toyota dealers. Corwin Toyota of Bellevue, Village Point Toyota of Omaha, Baxter Toyota of La Vista, or Baxter Toyota of Lincoln.
Noddle Companies proudly supports the Huskers Radio Network. As a full-service leader in commercial real estate, we create thriving communities. Discover what's new in the Builders District in North Downtown, Noddle Hospitality's latest venture in Exarban Village, and the contemporary living of row house townhomes on Leavenworth. We're welcoming world-class concepts from men's fashion and great eats to gorgeous homes and green spaces, all professionally managed by Noddle Services. These are the Noddle Companies, building a better Nebraska. For more information, check us out on Facebook and Instagram.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your basement and damaging your home. Mold, cracks, and of course visible water are just a few signs your basement is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns. A free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com. License number C142293.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the ninth inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
Don't miss out on a complete day of activities for the entire family at the 2025 Husker Games presented by FNBO on Saturday, April 26th. The Husker Games will include football activities in Memorial Stadium, a soccer matchup with Wyoming at Hibner Stadium, and spring volleyball match against Kansas at the Devaney Center. You can also participate in a tour of the Osborne Legacy Complex, the Husker Equipment Sale, and a food truck festival. Get your tickets today at huskers.com/tickets. See you on April 26th.
Sports Nightly continuing here. A couple quick segments before we get out of here. Going to watch some national championship men's college basketball action tonight, and we'll give you our thoughts in that game as far as who we think will win, Florida and Houston. But first, I want to tell you what's on tap, brought to you by Michelob Ultra. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. As we were talking in hour number one with head coach Will Bolt on tap, the Nebraska baseball team. A busy week. They'll be taking on Kansas tomorrow out in Lawrence. That'll be a 6 o'clock start, 5:30 airtime. And then it is in Iowa City to take on Iowa for a 3-game series. That'll be at 6 o'clock on Friday night. The softball team will be in action against crosstown rival Creighton. That'll be taking place at Bullen Stadium on Wednesday. Thursday at 6 o'clock. In fact, we'll have that for you right here on the Huskers Radio Network. And then it is the track and field team for Nebraska. They will be out in College Station for the 44 Farms Invitational. That'll be starting this Friday. That is What's on Tap, brought to you by Michelob Ultra. Only worth it if you enjoy it. I haven't had a chance to talk to you. Jessica and myself haven't had a chance to talk to you since Matt Rule met with the media on Friday. And the big announcement, on top of a lot of good things that are going on in spring. In fact, Matt Rule was very encouraged with what he saw last week, especially on Friday, with spring ball continuing and progressing towards the Husker games, which we're looking forward to, is the dismissal of new additional wide receiver transfer addition that is in Hardley Gilmore, who also came from Kentucky. It was a decision that he will no longer be with the team. It wasn't anything, as Matt Rule said, outside of the program. It wasn't any breaking of the law or anything like that, and that's where Matt Rule left it. So it is unfortunately, as you see sometimes, whether it was either a culture thing or not even sure, don't even really want to speculate, but just going off of what Matt Rule said, it wasn't anything of the nature that you would worry about that was outside of the program, like he had mentioned, breaking the law, nothing like that. But it's a hit from the standpoint of you're looking at this position group to have a significant jump forward, and a lot of those key additions, which are still intact as well, with guys like Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter. And you look at some of the guys that are currently and have been with this program for over a year, guys like Ja'Cory Barney. We'll see if Quinn Clark takes a step forward as well. Cortez Mills, a new addition, as well as the true freshman. There's a lot of interesting components with this wide receiving group. But the Hardley Gilmore part of it was also seen as a speedster, a guy that could really be a playmaker for this wide receiving group. But as we heard on Friday, he will not be a part of this football team. But I don't think that announcement all of a sudden does anything drastic to this wide receiving group. And again, the prospect of this group taking that large step forward to be the type of a component for this offense that you want from a guy like Dylan Raiola, that you want to be able to complement it with the running game that you also hope is going to take a step forward, but also, more importantly, the offensive line that looks like it's improved, and continue to hear really good things. Anytime we've heard Donovan Raiola talk here in the spring, talking about the offensive line, really like what we're hearing from Donovan Raiola when he's talked about Rocco Spindler, especially. A guy that comes in with that national championship appearance with Notre Dame, but the starts under his belt, having a little bit of the chops. A guy that really embraced what Nebraska was doing when it came to the off-season part of this. And whether it's spring ball or you're talking about mat drills, and it even took him by surprise a little bit. But he seems to really be a key component when you think of new additions for this football team in general, but especially on that offensive line with some of those veteran pieces that Nebraska's had that are unavailable, at least from a rep standpoint in spring ball because of injury. That you have a guy like Elijah Pritchett, who, again, we've talked about many times, from Alabama, that is a key addition. But Rocco Spindler sounds like he's not only a key addition, but a guy that's getting pretty vocal and seeming to jive well with Coach Raiola and what they're trying to do with an offensive line. But the big news on Friday was that Hardley Gilmore is no longer with the team. When we continue, though, we will wrap things up, and we will give you our thoughts on who's going to win the national championship in men's college basketball as we wrap things up here on a Monday edition of Sports Nightly, which is brought to you by Hy-Vee. Hey, Huskers, stop by your local Hy-Vee, where they've lowered prices on thousands of items you use every day. Hy-Vee, dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier. We'll wrap things up next here on Sports Nightly.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health, and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraska-chiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
Your next vehicle is waiting for you at Woodhouse. With over 20 locations and a variety of brands, Woodhouse offers everything from reliable trucks to family-friendly SUVs. Whether you're looking for a Nissan, Mazda, or Infiniti, our team is here to help you find the perfect fit. Enjoy a seamless car buying experience with our expert staff and exceptional service. Visit Woodhouse today, where quality, selection, and customer satisfaction come first. Or get started online at woodhouse.com.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Hey Huskers, it's a new day in Nebraska. Manzer Equipment, Mertz Farm Equipment, and West Point Implement of Columbus have teamed up as True Ag and Turf. Coach Rule is bringing innovation and high-performance standards to Husker football, and True Ag is doing the same to your farm with game-changing Fendt equipment. As Big Red establishes power on the field, True Ag and Turf does the same in the field by welcoming Fendt to Nebraska.
Nebraska Lottery.
Hey, I heard Trucks and Bucks is back.
Yes, sir. And this year you could win one of 8 new gray trucks. People from around the state just love this game.
They do?
You bet. Just this morning, I got calls from excited players in Burwell, Sutton, Falls City, and Ralston.
Well, you can add Wilbur to the list.
You're from Wilbur?
No, that's my name.
Oh.
Hey, if you get a call from Alma, that's my aunt.
That's her name?
No, that's where she lives.
Trucks and Bucks top prize odds are 1 in 336,000.
Sports Nightly brought to you by Woodhouse. Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. Nick Hanley with you one final time here. Quick segment before we say goodnight for the evening, and we're going to be watching some college basketball. Josh Hilkeman, the producer extraordinaire here, joining me today and making sure that I remember how to do all this stuff as well. But, Josh, we've got Florida, Houston. You heard Robin Washut's thought. He's got Florida. I like his thoughts on the defensive side of it, though, that you can never really trust maybe Florida or any team when you got a Houston team that's a lockdown defender, a team now twice in key matchups that has had a pretty solid comeback.
Yeah.
I'm still going to lean with Florida because I'm going to say in most occasions when defense trumps offense, I'm going to say the fact that Florida can score, but they can also defend a little bit too. I'm going to take Florida, but I think this is going to be a tight one.
Yeah, I agree. So I had Auburn over Duke in my bracket, so I'm done. But I also didn't have Florida making the Final Four. I thought they were going to get upset at some point along the way. And they had close calls against UConn and against Texas Tech. So I think maybe they've kind of proven themselves, but so is Houston. I could see it going either way. I'm going to lean toward Florida. I think that's my pick going into tonight. They just seem like they have the ability to do it on both ends of the floor, like you said.
Does it change anything that I did actually have Florida winning the bracket? I can't win in my bracket, but I
okay. Well,
so I got the bracket blinders on right now.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but no. It's funny because I had Auburn. If they had been in the championship against Duke, I would have been feeling pretty nervous right now because I would have been up for some prize money. But
I like me some Walter Clayton too.
Yeah,
so
he's good.
We'll see how that one goes. Appreciate you, Josh, helping out as well. Always good stuff being able to spend these 2 hours with you. Big thanks to head coach Will Bolt for joining us in the Will Bolt Coaches Show. In the first hour, also Robin Washut of Husker Online. We've got Nebraska baseball tomorrow night. I'll be on the call. Kansas and the Huskers tomorrow, and then it's Nebraska softball Wednesday as Nebraska will be hosting Creighton. We'll have that for you right here on the Huskers Radio Network, and then Jessica and myself will be back with you on Thursday for Sports Nightly. Until then, have a great night. You've been listening to Sports Nightly. Good night.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
I got to see my brother get married.
I would have missed my dad's birthday.
Because I wore my seatbelt, I had the privilege of being part of his special day.
I got to go home and see my family again.
Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
I was able to go to my brother's graduation.
I wouldn't have adopted my first pet.
And then it clicked. My seatbelt saved my life. Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go Or if you like to stay a while, it means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
Nebraska soybeans power everyday products, from Goodyear tires and Skechers shoes to soy-based turf and fire suppressants. These innovations replace petroleum and utilize other components of the soybean, leading to more sustainable products worldwide.
I'm Doug Sadoff, a farmer near Trumbull, Nebraska. Thanks to cutting-edge research, soybeans are now in everything from tires to turf. It's amazing to see how these advancements are unlocking new potential for our crops.
Soybeans are a win for every product and everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life.